Okay, welcome to the Winnipeg. What are we? We're doing a Code-a-thon. We're doing a Code-a-thon here. So we've got about 10, 15 people in the room. We're getting ready for the afternoon to hack away. We're live on YouTube right now. So if you've got, you want to retweet out the link or anything like that to anybody who wants to join in, they can help out this afternoon as well. You don't have to be in the room to help. It's open source project available on GitHub. So everything we're talking about today, it's a real project. It's a real product. And it's being used by American Red Cross already in a trial in Chicago. So it's a great project. We've got on the line with us on the call here this afternoon, we've got Tony from Humanitarian Toolbox. And Tony, we'll just get you to give us a bit of an intro and start walking us through some of the outstanding issues.
Okay, excellent. First of all, thank you all for joining for the rest of today. Hopefully my speaker's quiet enough here. We shouldn't have any echo. So Humanitarian Toolbox is basically an organization that's focused on how do we take folks like you who are generous with your technical skills and apply them to projects that are actually going to be used by people for good, and make sure those projects actually do get used and they're maintained beyond today, so that your sign up, if you will, is just to help out with the project today. Hopefully you continue to help out, work on different issues and such, but by working on this, you're not suddenly on the hook to work on it for the rest of time or anything like that. We want to find the way for everybody to volunteer their skills and be able to help out. And so we do that by using open source and tying that to sort of professional software development ideas. And one of those is we actually have a project, we have requirements, we track the issues, we continue to develop it, and we actually deploy and then learn from the deployments. So the application that we're talking about today is Already, and Already is about how do we do almost the same thing with the folks who volunteer to help out in preparedness campaigns. Preparedness campaigns are important because logically $1 or an hour spent ahead of a disaster is worth 30 after them, just like a bug fix early in the software project is more valuable than after it's been released to users. And so this is focused around how do we help organizations create visibility for their campaigns, get volunteers, as well as get citizens in the communities they serve aware of what they're doing, and then ultimately coordinate and deliver on those preparedness campaigns. So you can think of them anything from the, maybe it's a weekend rally at a festival or a fair, driving information. It could be around helping people check out car seats or something like that. Or in the case of what we're doing with our first customer, but certainly not our only, is the American Red Cross division that's out of Chicago, is around fire safety and preparedness campaigns. And how do we make sure that they can drive all the volunteers, they can make sure that we get the right people with the right skills at the right time to actually go ahead and coordinate the delivery of installing smoke detectors at homes that don't have them. So that's Humanitarian Toolbox, and that's the project. What we've done is we've had several Code-a-thons up until this point. We have a working application that is already been exercised by the Red Cross. It's going to happen again later this month. And then we actually have a full field exercise that's going to happen early in 2016. Just like I imagine there, it tends to get a bit cold in Chicago, so as you can imagine, there's not a lot of outdoor activity happening with volunteers in sort of early January and late December. And so we're really in this stretch right now of getting the application, finding the bugs, fixing them, and getting them so everybody can have this in their hands and the application's launched. Shortly thereafter, it will go into what we call public preview. And then the idea there is any organization from anywhere, we're primarily focused on North America, but eventually internationally, will be able to use this organization to do preparedness work in their local community. And you're on mute.
It's even telling me, hey, you're muted. So this is Code-a-thon number 3 for us, is that correct? Or is it number 4?
4, because we had the original one with the Visual Studio team. Then we had that conference in Wisconsin, and then we had the MVP, Minimal Viable Product, not Most Valuable Professional, one up in Redmond again, and now this one.
Right, so we're going to do this offline. I'll start walking everybody through the code base and through the repo and whatnot, but we were hoping before you, I know you have to jump off, but before you do, this is a project that's managed out in the open, so anybody who's doing work on it can see the issues that we're adding. We're taking new issues and new pull requests from people out in the community. So if you want to jump in, then we actually have a special label that we've put on. Like if you've never done, if you haven't worked with the project before, you want to do a jump in, then we've got a label for that. If you've never done open source before and you want to get your feet wet, then we've got a jump in label for that, so you can just start to test the waters and start contributing to, software for good kind of idea, and applying the skills that we have as a software developer for something that's, for a charitable cause that's going to benefit real people. So, Tony, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen there and walking us through just some of the issues, and we'll, after we get off the call here, we'll actually jump in. I'll make sure you guys are directed towards the repo. In fact, if you want to jump on to github.com/htbox, you can see the already project on there, and you can start having a look at the issues right now. Tony's going to walk us through some of the what we've labeled as the jump-in ones, and these are going to be real good candidates for jumping in here today with us.
Can you see my screen now?
We can, and we see the echo back of the people in the room.
Okay, so yeah, I'll minimize that. And hopefully I'm zoomed up enough now. So, as James mentioned, it's github.com/htbox. That's the set of repos we maintain for our nonprofit. And then each one of the projects is one underneath there. So the one we're focused on is already. And so there's a number of things you can find here. There's a README, there's a wiki. James will go through all of that. What I wanted to focus on was the issues, and let me set up my filter correctly. And so, as he mentioned, we have a good number of issues, and we primarily group them into milestones, just so that you can see, how we're looking at where we're trying to move forward and what our next release plan is. And we have, as he mentioned, the jump-in tag. And the idea there is that these might be issues that are smaller, don't touch many parts, are easier to kind of get your feet wet with the GitHub fork pull request workflow, as well as don't have to have you suddenly understand every business requirement in order to do it. And just to double check, you can still see my screen, right?
We sure can.
Okay, excellent. So right now we've got quite a few issues, which is good. We got 74 of them apparently, but we have 13 of them that are labeled as jump in. And so I'll talk about a few of them and basically the way they're laid out. The other thing I'll mention is that if you go in and you see an issue, and I'm trying to remember, I think, was it this one? No, this one. You'll occasionally see that somebody has already said, I've got it, I'm on top of it. And even in this case, there's an active pull request with somebody who had a fix there because we had too many D's in the word address. And so if you do hop on and you are going to work on one of these, the best thing to do is just put a comment saying, I got it, I'm working on it. We can always assign you later, but that way someone will know that someone's working on it, so don't duplicate your work. But ultimately, what a lot of these jump-in issues are is they're everything from a number of sort of housekeeping items. There's unused files in the solution. There's some magic strings that we could turn into constants. Unit tests are a great way of kind of jumping in because you could start to say, okay, I don't have to rewrite the code or the API, just kind of run some tests on top of it. Stuff like input masks, display information. There's a couple of cases where we have extra stuff there that isn't functional yet, so we ought to remove it. There's a few steps here about some UI work, so if somebody's more on the design side of things, or HTML, CSS, JavaScript, moving things from the main nav, putting it in the footer, getting rid of the zip code search on the campaigns page. There's a couple others, which is then once you do that, then actually moving campaigns to show up on the first one. If you're a little bit more new with some of the ASP.NET, there's one here around changing what one thing links to another thing. So we really kind of try to create these as these are good ways of sort of exercising that, get the code down, get it compiled, make a change, do a pull request, and be able to do all that without necessarily jumping into a much heavier set. And just real quick to show, assuming my enter key still works there, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you want to go in and play with the database, you want to rename core entities, you want to fix up some of the test failures or how we're dealing with date times or entity framework. There's a lot of those capabilities as well, but we tend to point folks to the jump-in items here.
Awesome. Okay, well, I guess for now we can probably wrap this up. Thanks again for joining us here for a little bit, Tony. And I think we will be shipping code here momentarily. I got everybody's hands on the keyboard already, and they're ready to start dropping pull requests. So this is really good.
Excellent. Again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing what you do today. As well as James mentioned, this is all online and it's all out in the open. So you got some time today or got some time after today and want to pick something else up as well, we're very excited about that, and thank you for volunteering with your time.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thanks.
Cheers.